I have lived afraid, worried, self-conscious for seasons, for large bits of my life, assessing how good of a human being, wife, mom, friend, follower of Jesus I am. And I've often felt that I've come up terribly short, not enough. I've doubted that I matter, that I really, really matter. And I've wondered, do I have a part in this great, big, mighty world? I've strived and I've hustled a bunch and too much. What the heck? Didn't Rochelle say this was going to be a message about belovedness and Henri Nowen? It's kind of a downer. But she said Sarah Davison-Tracy would bring us a resonating message, a new voice for a new generation. Yes, she did. And I don't blame you for the questions. And yes, I am Sarah Davison-Tracy. And I begin sharing these moments of struggle, of fear, doubt, and hustling, because in these struggles, I have found and have been invited to be beloved. They have compelled me, they have beckoned me to another way in which I get to experience life to the full. I bought some glasses on the way down here, which I am going to put on. I noticed Rochelle used a bigger font on her notes. Good job, girl. But as I've made my way to this good stuff, to this fullness of life, there have been some rough patches. One, in fact, occurred 9 years ago here at Via Affirmativa. I remember being drawn. I was curious to be a part of this weekend, so I RSVP'd and I showed up. I didn't know exactly why, but I knew I wanted to be here. Rochelle, one of my soul sisters for life, had been a roommate of mine for years, and she was part of Via's leadership back then, and thus I was drawn in. But once I got here, I found myself frozen and frenetic in a basement bathroom stall. I was privately creating and rehearsing my response to, so Sarah, what's your art form? Are you an artist? Are you an art appreciator? What do you do in the culture? And I was down there thinking, what do I do? I came up with something like this. My art form is in the everyday, around community, around food, around friendship, around my home. I write a little bit, but I don't do anything with it just yet. No blogs or books. I felt the need to disclaim it a little bit. Behind these assertions, each true, I was self-conscious. I didn't feel that I really belonged in this room with all of these amazing, beautiful people. I was not yet experiencing the way of Via Affirmativa, the way of affirmation. So it made me wonder how many of us were drawn by that one person whom you never say no to because whatever they invite you to is always good. Or maybe you were drawn by a mysterious desire to be here, but you also don't yet know why. Or perhaps you too feel just a little uncomfortable, not sure if or where you belong yet. No matter what brought you to Via, whether you're an artist, an art appreciator, whether you know why you are here or not, there is something here for you. There is someone here for you. There is a way of affirmation here that will take your breath away this weekend. For me, this way has been the secure and extravagant source of love from Jesus. He has beckoned me. He has met me. He has whispered truth to me. Try as I might, and I tried long and hard to be affirmed in other places, and the applause of others and physical appearance and being a good wife, mom, mother, friend, activist, on and on. Where I have found my home is in Jesus, is with Jesus. So bit by bit and step by step, as I have been led down this way of affirmation, I have sensed this invitation from Jesus to fly free and unfettered, careless in his care, in Matthew 6:26. This is an invitation to each of us, to all of us, especially in the rough days, the confusing days, the painful ones. It was true for me in a really rough spot about 20 years ago, in which I nearly starved myself to death in a land of plenty. I was in my late teens, my early 20s. I was barely surviving, and the days were long and dark. I was held very tightly in the grip of anorexia. It's a long story with a happy ending. I'm here, I survived miraculously, and I'm happy to share it if that triggers anything in you. But the thing is that even when I was barely surviving, Jesus was with me. Emmanuel, God with us, saved my life, and he has kept saving my life since that moment. And then there were those seasons, those moments in my mid-20s when I hustled and tried so dang hard to figure out my purpose on the planet. There was that day 9 years ago here at the Glen at Via in that basement bathroom stall, self-consciously trying to rehearse why I belonged here. And yes, I have experienced in my life what Isaiah spoke about in chapter 30 of the Bible, which says this: your salvation requires you to turn back to me and to stop your silly efforts from saving yourselves. And they are silly. That's mine. Your strength will come from settling down in complete dependence on me. And when you do, moonlight will flare into sunlight, and sunlight, like a whole week of sunshine at once, will flood your land. Dang, it's led me to this moment, my heart beating through my chest, standing among you all in this beautiful castle. And in it all, here's the thing, whether faltering or free, the light never went out. Hope kindled, and Emmanuel was with me. Okay, so here we are in this castle, in this ancient hall. We have each arrived from around the country, a group of varying ages, different ways we make and appreciate art. Some may be travel weary, may have had a hard day. Some are on fire and full of anticipation. Some are full-time artists who get to make your living through your work. Others squeeze in time to create with full lives of work and family. Some of you have been drawn in and eager to be a part of this Christian community and conversation this weekend. Others may be unsure where, how, or if you fit into this Christian community and conversation. Still may be finding your way on your faith journey. But here's the thing, however you got here, whatever you are feeling in this moment, wherever you find yourself, welcome. You belong here. We have been preparing for you, anticipating your arrival for a very long time. It's no accident that you're here. This is destiny. So tonight and throughout the weekend, pay attention to what makes your heart thrum, your jaw or stomach ache. Tears come to your eyes. These are clues for the treasure hunt tonight and this weekend. So, if you will, take out this little piece of paper. For people like me that like to take little notes, I crafted this piece here. There's a place for notes and then a little thing, but if you care to, I'm going to point you to where this rock stack is throughout as we dive into the rest of the talk. Use it if you like it, if it's distracting. Make a paper airplane. You can have a game on the longest paper airplane later. So let's dive into our 4 B's. Be still, be loved, belong, and be love. I believe these 4 B's have glittering gifts for each one of us. And our first B is be still. It is not troubleshooting or problem solving, but it is a place to go with the troubles and the problems. Wherever you are, right here and now, is where you begin with being still. I call this a place of pause or a pop. So let's take our cue here from a story in the Bible. There are bits in this story that sound mighty familiar to me. I'm eager to hear from you if you find yourself in this story too. We are told in 1 Kings 19 that Elijah, a prophet, finds himself afraid, discouraged, and worn out. We are told that the powers of darkness seemed great. He was overwhelmed and he had run for dear life. And then he collapsed and fell asleep. He wanted to be done with it all and just die, he told God. Take my life, I am ready. We're told he'd been, quote, working his heart out for God, and all he saw was failure. So in response to all of these common human struggles of fear, discouragement, exhaustion, and failure, in the realities of his life right then and there, God invited him to be still in a cave. He was told by an angel, wow, go stand on a mountain at attention before God. God will pass by. So that's what Elijah did. And the Bible tells us about a hurricane ripping through the mountains and a wind and a fire. And after all of that, it says, after the fire, a gentle and quiet whisper. And when Elijah heard the quiet voice, he muffled his face with his great cloak, went to the mouth of the cave, and he stood there. And there he had a conversation with God. If Elijah's story has threads of connection with your own, of maybe working your heart out for God, of being afraid, discouraged, or exhausted, perhaps this is an invitation to you to be still in this place. We'll call it our beautiful cave castle, where God has invited each of us, and we have found our way here. Because here's the thing, he is always, always where we are. He is always, always here. With you and for you, his eyes twinkling with delight as he sees you. Now, listen, eyes twinkling with delight when he sees you, that may evoke a bunch of different emotions. Some of you may be like, yeah, that's my jam. That's how I live life. Others may be like, that's crazy woo-woo and unbelievable and a little out there. But I get it. I've been there for a lot of my life, and there are still days that I forget it, but I believe that this invitation to be still, to be with, to be loved by God is one of the reasons that we are living and breathing today. The Bible tells us that God is always doing things for us. In fact, that life may be more simple than we often make it to be. It reminds me of one of my favorite verses in Romans. It says, embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for him. Receiving, embracing, and simply being loved by God is the best thing we can do for him. I get to kick back and take a breath. For me, when I read that the first time, I remember just fireworks, I can chill out. And then the passage in Romans that blankets this verse or sandwiches this verse is amazing. Check it out. It says this, here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for him. The only accurate way to understand ourselves is by what God is and by what God does, not by what we are and by what we do for him. He does so much. He brings so much goodness into our lives. He leads us down this way of affirmation. He loves us to life, to a life beyond our wildest dreams. So now we're going to take a moment for just a mini place of pause. A time to stand or sit in our castle cave as Elijah did. We're not even going to put on music. We're just going to be quiet for a moment. And not a long moment, don't freak out. Check out these amazing words from Jesus speaking about a place of pause. In Matthew 6:6, he says, "Here's what I want you to do. Find a quiet place. Be there simply and honestly as you can manage. The focus will shift from you to God, and you will begin to sense his grace." That's all we're going to do. Simple, and sometimes not easy. So if this is totally your jam, lucky you. If it freaks you out or it's the last thing you want to do, dare I say, lucky you. This might just be the ticket to fuel up and be encouraged from a deep place to receive exactly what you need. I pray that you will experience God in a blessed, unique to you way, that you will feel seen, met, and heard wherever you are. But first, I gotta say this. I don't know how you will experience or hear him tonight or this weekend. And in my life, there have been seasons that I have been really, really discouraged in my attempts to experience and hear God. There were times that I heard crickets, and I had a dark night of the soul. And if the cricket dark night of the soul experience happened in community, it was all the more challenging. What was wrong with me? Everyone else was hearing God and experiencing all kinds of things I wasn't. Sometimes, when we don't experience these things, feel or hear anything, it can be tempting to doubt. That's why we have each other, I believe. And that's why we have this word. We hear over and over that coming for us, meeting us, and loving us is God's passion and purpose, and sometimes we just have to claim it before we feel it. Whether crickets or a clear whisper from God, he is here. You are deeply loved by him. And before I go any further, I want to acknowledge too that though many of us are followers of Jesus, even among this many, we are all in different places experiencing Jesus in our everyday lives. So a nudge, not to judge, worry, or pretend in any way. Remember what Jesus said in that amazing scripture? Be here as simply and honestly as you can manage. He's here right now with us. So, we're going to pop. Plant your feet on the ground, please. Both feet. If you're cool with it, close your eyes. And inhale big and deep. Exhale big and deep. And if this seems weird, the reason I'm asking us to do this is some of us haven't taken a deep breath all day, maybe for a long time. That happens when we're worried, busy, stressed, or on the move. So, take a breath. May it still your heart, mind, and you. May it be peacemaking in you. Okay, I invite each of you to keep your eyes closed and pause and consider. Is there a burden, a worry, a challenge that you entered this great hall with? If so, see it, feel it. Is there fear, discouragement, exhaustion, or feelings of failure spoken to you in Elijah's story? Is there pain in your own life or in the life of someone dear to you? Now imagine whatever this burden is that you carried in here with you, tucking it in a backpack. Feel for a moment how heavy it may be. God speaks to this burdensome place in Psalm 81:6. Now I will take the load, the world from your shoulders. It can feel like we're carrying the world sometimes. 1 Peter 5:7 invites this. Throw the whole of your anxiety, your worries on him because he cares for you. Now keeping your eyes closed or open, up to you. Breathing those full, deep breaths, bring to mind this burden, small or large, heavy or light. Imagine it being taken off your shoulders, as Psalm 81 spoke of, one strap at a time. Watch it being held and carried by the mighty, capable hands of this God who loves you. Or maybe imagine the 1 Peter 5:7 pit of throwing this burden backpack into the hands of this mighty and capable one who sees and can handle it. Keep your eyes closed a few more moments. The psalm above in chapter 81 continues with this. You called to me in your pain, and I rescued you. I got you out of a bad place. I wonder, how might you call to God right now in your spirit or heart in conversational prayer with God? Or it may be that you don't really know what to say or what to pray. Maybe whatever is going on within you is beyond your ability to express in words. If so, take heart with this promise in Romans 8. If we don't know what or how to pray, it does not matter, because God's Spirit does our praying in and for us, making prayer out of our wordless sighs, our aching groans. So whatever you most want or need, take a few moments to be quiet, just being. If there are no words, trust that He's praying for you and with you and in you. I'm going to stop talking for just a few moments as you do. Okay, y'all, listen. We're now going to take a moment to listen, to really listen with our hearts, with our spirits, with all of our senses to what this ever-present, extravagant in love God has to convey to you, to me, to us right now. I do believe that in our busyness and working our hearts out for God, as Elijah expressed, we can miss the gifts that God is pouring on us. We can miss experiencing that He is here. This is a time for that. There will be more time to be still this weekend, to talk with others. But for now, trust that this little itty-bitty moment, God can fill you up with more than you need. So one last time, plant your feet on the ground, close your eyes, do some jaw. Open your jaw and close it and soften it. Maybe open your hands like my sister Melissa. Take a moment to breathe, to be still, to be loved. Okay. If you care to, pick up this sheet, and on one of the 4 biggest rocks, on this little stack of rocks, I invite you to just consider for a moment, is there a word, a feeling, a word from Scripture, something you pictured that comes to mind that you can write in one of the biggest rocks? We'll have 4 of these, and this stack of rocks will be a story archive, if you care to make it so, of your story tonight. So it's around like a word that came to mind during this be still, our first be. You want to take with you after tonight and remember. All right, now, I want to invite 1 or 2 of you to share what you wrote. Sometimes it can be empowering to voice these things, to be witnessed and heard. And if you're like me, a little terrifying too. But if a few of you would be up for it, I would love for you to stand up or raise your hand and share the word that came to mind for you. Any brave souls? Yeah.
Peace.
Thank you. Trust.
Celebrate.
Celebrate. connection. Someone else said, raise their hand or said something over here. No? Okay. Here's the reason that I love inviting us in community to share, because sometimes a word that someone else shares is meant for you too. So pay attention if you hear a thing that captures your attention, because we learn and grow together. So our second B, living beloved. The Nowen, what Rochelle promised. You are beloved. Do you hear it? No? And I will whisper it. You are beloved. You always have been. Crazily, over the toply, and fully. And you always will be. Loved, celebrated, cherished, delighted in. And light is in all caps, delighted in. You are loved, beloved. Take it in, inhale it, let it take root and flourish. The courtroom, the judgments, the words of too much, not enough, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, it is adjourned, over, now, today, tomorrow, and the next day. All the days from now to infinity. So around this beloved piece, there are a few words from Scripture that have been planted in and whispered to my heart, that they have formed me. They have grown me. In Mark 11, we hear a blessing first spoke to Jesus by his Abba, by his Father, and bit by bit I have heard these words. Sarah, you are my beloved daughter. I am pleased with you. You bring me great joy. I take delight in you. I choose you. You are the pride of my life, Sarah. As are each of you, as are each of us. I wholly believe that taking in these words fuels a life of freedom and abundance, life to the full beyond our wildest dreams. In Song of Solomon 2, 3 through 4, he speaks with love poetry about this love that we are invited to experience with all of our senses, with all of ourselves. He says, in his shade I take delight. I taste and savor his delicious love. His banner over me is love. It's obvious how much he loves me. He looks at me. He showers me with love. My friend, this love does cover, shower, and is with you. Within the moments of richer, poorer, sickness, health, sameness, difference, overwhelm and peace, isolation, togetherness, anywhere and everywhere. Whether you feel you have been kicked in the gut or are lit up with joy, love is there. This love is the oxygen that you need to breathe when you feel you are suffocating, and the whisper you need to hear when you don't know how much longer you can make it. Oh, y'all, this is where the magic gets worked into us, individually and as a community. We become different, new, alive. We become free, fearlessly confident when we live beloved. You're beloved by God. He finds great joy in you, right here and right now. So do you feel beloved? Take a moment and just consider, do you feel this favor, this sense of affirmation of who you are, not because of anything you do or don't do, but just because you're you? Ask God. Sit in silence for a moment and consider, where might he be nudging you to experience this love, this belovedness in your life? And when it comes to you, write a word or a phrase on your sheet on one of the other 4 larger rocks on that stack that comes to mind. So I'm wondering, any shares? Any words that come to mind, word or phrase, about this piece of belovedness, our second B? Stand up, shout it out, raise your hand. Pardon me? Grace. Thank you. Freedom. Age. pearl of great price. Treasure. Wow, thank you. Such a feast. Our third B is belonging. So, when you're shored up in that first B of being still, of listening for and hearing that whisper of God's voice that is relevant to your life here and now. And when you live beloved, our second B, and experience more and more of this belovedness, you experience a profound sense of your value, your dignity. You matter. It's that feeling that who you are holds weight, it holds space. It has a place. There is glitter here, that glittering gift of you. This connects to that Via moment in the basement bathroom 9 years ago. It wasn't about me having the right answer to wow the person asking me the question of, Sarah, what's your art form? It was about an interior sense of belonging and of value within the still to be figured out bits that I didn't know yet, which I'm pretty sure are always going to be with me. I didn't know that a decade later, I'd be invited to stand here in front of you. But here's the thing, being a published author, having an art form of writing, it doesn't imbue lasting and solid value, but not at that deep level. But living, moving, and having my being rooted in the one that loves me, that does. I'm not loved or more valuable as a published author, but this love, this belovedness was the fuel that empowered and encouraged me to write. Now, there's another component, an important one, to this belonging piece. Bit by bit, it may nudge us to extend this experience of belonging to others. I have often found that it connected to that first B in those times of being still. I find that God nudges me to connect with my brothers and sisters, his body, our family. Check out this amazing scripture. Romans 12:5, Paul writes, "So we who are many are one body in Jesus, and individually we are members who belong to one another." Another translation says this, "In the same way, even though we are many individuals, Christ makes us individuals who are connected to one another." The Bible speaks of this so often, of us being family. We belong to one another, to those in our biological families, to those here at Via, to those in our neighborhoods, and to those far away on the other side of the world. So I'm curious, take a moment and consider what captures your attention in this third element of belonging. Is it more of an internal nudge to belong, to move through life a bit more with that deep sense of value, worth, security of who you are from right deep down? Or maybe it's more of an external invitation to connect more with others. Maybe it's a desire to cultivate a deeper connection with a trusted few, that you can be real, that you can laugh or cry and rock life or flail at it, be loud or quiet. Maybe it's more about reaching out, of conveying to those that you meet that they matter, that they are valuable, that they belong. So, for the third time, take a moment and ponder. What's a word or a phrase that you could write on that third rock in that stack that calls you around belonging? What do you sense? And just a sidebar, if it's a crickets moment, fill it in later or have a conversation and maybe it'll come then. So any shout outs? Rooted? united, connected. Sorry? Invest? Awesome. I'm able to see my notes, but not people as good with my glasses. I've never spoken with glasses. Okay, so the fourth element of our B's is be love. Jesus will guide us into the ways he has destined each of us to be love, to be his hands and feet, moving about our everyday lives in service to others. He will nudge us to share the ways that he's equipped each of us to passionately love those near and or far. It's part of that full, abundant, beyond your wildest dreams life he's promised. In Matthew 11:29, Jesus says this, "Walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace." I call this the WWW of Jesus. Walk with, work with, and watch. And there's two withs. It's important, right? We have so much to do as we watch, work with, and walk with Jesus. In Micah 6:8, we hear clearly what is important to God: caring for one another, fairness, justice, compassion, loyalty, being love. The Bible is full of what matters, of who matters to God. He speaks of this over and over. In Isaiah 58, God invites us to break the chains of injustice, to free the oppressed, to share our food with the hungry, to invite the homeless poor into our homes, and to be available to our own families. And he says this, when we do those things, do this and the lights will turn on. Your lives will turn around at once. If you're generous with the hungry, and if you start giving yourselves to the down and out, your lives will glow in the darkness. Your shadowed lives will be bathed in sunlight. I will always show you where to go. I will give you a full life in the emptiest of places, firm muscles and strong bones. Sounds so good, right? We hear in this passage that there is a deep and strong connection with this God-fueled way of being love, of working with him in the world, and of our lives glowing in the darkness, being bathed in sunlight, being full of life and being strong. So that's why it connects to the be still, because I believe it has to be fueled by the being still times with Jesus. Because when he puts the desire, the passion, and the ability in us, it is enough. It's plenty. It is abundant. It is fullness. And it brings his light to the world. As we practice loving God and being loved by God, experiencing this way of affirmation, this via affirmativa to our core, being love is not a burdensome doing. It's not lacking in any way. It's like a dance. It's like a song, and it's joyful because it is being ignited by Jesus himself. In these times of being still, and as we talk with others, as we go about our everyday lives, we will hear from God about what he cares about who he cares about, and how he's equipped each of us to uniquely be his hands and feet to be love in the world. While taking in this clear invitation to love and serve others, the best news, I love this part throughout the Bible, is that God tells us that he's the one that plants it and fuels it. It's not up to you to be a good person and grit your teeth in loving service to the world. Sounds terrible. If it is, you will burn out and it will not be sustainable. I've been there, and I know some in the room have too. It's hard. But being love, this kind of love, it's started, fueled, and finished by him. The passage that speaks to this and gives me a chuckle and a sigh of relief, all three of those things, is in Ephesians 2:10. Saving is all his idea and all his work. All we do is trust him enough to let him do it. It's God's gift from start to finish. We don't play the major role. If we did, we'd probably go around bragging that we had done the whole thing anyway. No, we neither make nor save ourselves. God does the making and the saving. He creates each of us. That means every human being on the planet by Christ Jesus to join him in the work that he does. The good work he has gotten ready for us to do, and the work we had better be doing. Gotta love Paul, right? Get out and do it. Gets even better. Check out this passage. 2 Corinthians 9:8. God pours on blessings in astonishing ways so that you are ready for anything and everything. More than just ready to do what needs to be done. The good news is that the work that he's gotten ready for us to do, doing what needs to be done, is rooted in this identity of belovedness. When it is the WWW, the walking with and working with and watching how Jesus does it, it's different. It's grace. These B's, being still, living beloved, and belonging, fundamentally change our experience of doing. The work discussed in the passages above and the jobs we have to do to make money, to pay bills, to care for our families, and all the things in our to-do lists. All those things get to be fundamentally different when they are fueled by the vision that he has given us in each of them and by that energy. They are fueled by the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit passage in Galatians 5:22 through 23, when we think about it in this WWW context, we're promised such goodness. It says this: what happens when we live life God's way? He brings gifts into our lives, much the same way that fruit appears in an orchard. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things and people. We develop a sense of compassion in the heart and a conviction that a basic holiness permeates all things and all people. We find ourselves involved in loyal commitments and do not need to force our way in life. We are able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. Wow, he does so much of the heavy lifting for us. I love that. I just love reading it over and over. I get to take a deep breath and do things differently. This time of being with God, of hearing from God and responding to God is game-changing. It will change what we think about, say, and do in small and large and local and global ways. It will often fuel us to use our dollars, our time, our creativity in such ways that makes life better for those for whom God has a special love. The poor, the vulnerable, for those on the outside, the outcasts of society. In Isaiah 1:17, God says this: learn to do good, work for justice, help the down and out, stand up for the homeless, go to bat for the defenseless. Learn to do good. The Bible is so clear. This learning takes practice. It is step by step and day by day. It is a lifelong journey with Jesus and each other. I believe that the more we practicing these places of pause, which is really places of prayer, right? Jesus will direct us to innovative ways to connect more deeply with each other and to do things in jaw-dropping ways to light up the world with his love. Okay, so our fourth and final rock, what calls to you in this be love, fourth element, and a word or a phrase. Listen, trust that God will whisper now or later to you what is meant for you. So write it in the fourth rock. So a couple shout outs of what came to you for our fourth and final rock. Joy. All is good. All is gift. Unforced rhythms. Called. Generosity. Wow. Okay, but what to do with the pain in us, in those we love, and in the world? In our world, poverty, war, famine, human trafficking, human rights, and more fill the news ticker tapes to the brim. In our country, there is so much division and dissension. In our youth, depression and suicide rates are at gut-wrenching highs, and news of school shootings grip our hearts way too often. Maybe the greatest pain you sense is your own. Physical pain, a fractured relationship with someone you love, confusion about your next steps, isolation, loneliness. Same thing, sorry, financial stress. Maybe someone near and dear to you is struggling. But here's the thing, I believe everything in me that it is right here in these real deal happenings around us and in the world, in the grit and challenge of life where God is. In it all, He is with us. He is with every single human being on the planet because each and every one of us matters to Him. He promises to be with us in it all. He promises such goodness to all of us. In John 10:10, Jesus says, I come that they may have life and have it to the full. My purpose is to give them an abundant, rich, and satisfying life so that they will have everything they need. A better life than they ever dreamed of. He bridges the gaps, every single one. And He is the way that we experience this life to the full, have everything we need, and have a better life than we ever dreamed of. This is good news worth fighting for, worth creating for, worth discerning our next steps as we watch, watch, and work with Him. This is good news that is beauty-making, truth-shaking. This is good news that can still and quiet us to the core. This is good news that is the way of affirmation. So I wonder, as we make our way down this way of affirmation together, which of the B's most calls to you? Being still, beloved, belonging, being love? Is there one that beckons you, you feel drawn to sit with and explore a little bit? And if so, circle it on your sheet. Only for you. It's your archive. But something to return to because it's perhaps a little tug of the Holy Spirit on a little gift that He wants to give you this weekend as you discern and explore it a little bit. So throughout the weekend, I would love to continue this conversation, to hear what's percolating in you. Find me. I'll be back at that table a bunch and around till Monday morning. Grab me too if you'd like to pray together about whatever is on your mind and your heart. I'd really love to hear a glimpse of your story. Also, if there's any questions that have come to mind, we put some note cards in the center of the table. If there's anything you'd love to either share with me that felt good or not so good, you want to talk about more, write it on the card, or my email is also in a card in the bag, and I would love, however you wish, to continue this conversation. Also, I want to point out that there's a bracelet in your bag, crafted just for you by a dear friend of Grant and mine in Nepal named Angela. We designed these together and we call them brother-sister bracelets, Didi and Dai Churas in Nepali. Feel free to come and swap yours out if you like. We have a woven style and a seated bead one. And some guys it's like they're both, whichever flavor you like. And I want you to know that Angela and her mama, when they make these bracelets, they sing. They pray blessings over the wearers of this bracelet. So no, my idea was for you to have a wearable reminder of this night and of how much you are loved and of the 4 words that are capturing your attention in that 4-stack rock and of the conversations yet to be had here this weekend. So wear it and remember. I believe that living a life more rooted and grounded in these 4 B's of being still, of belovedness, of belonging, and being love will make for days in which you see yourself in the world with new eyes, will illuminate a long-held passion or a brand new one, will encourage and inspire you, ignite you with vision and strategy for your one-of-a-kind purpose on the planet, will fill you to the brim with curiosity, will elevate the dignity of all, including your own, and will light you up with hope, love, and joy. The Spirit of God is here, lighting you up and fanning the flame of what is flickering or blazing in you. Check this out, Isaiah 30:33. God's breath, like a river of burning pitch, starts the fire. That is good news. Again, he's kindling all of this in us. We have been promised so much by this God whose eyes twinkle as he looks at you. He is with you and for you as you discern your next steps on this way of affirmation. This is the life we have been promised, Ephesians 3:20. God can do anything you know, far more than you could ever imagine, guess, or request in your wildest dreams. So buckle up. This is going to be quite the ride. May we experience this life that is far more than we could ever imagine or guess or request in our wildest dreams. May our lives be flooded with that week of sunshine at once this weekend as we make our way together down this road of affirmation. You are beloved. We belong to each other. Let's light up the world together.